Good evening, and welcome to the Up Sis Up show on the MSE Network. I am Dr. Marcea. I am your host, and this month, all of June, we are talking about money. We're talking about the financials, and we're talking about girls just want to have funds. We just want some funds. That's it. If you want to have some funds, put funds in the chat. Put buttons in the chat. And so this is Up Sis Up. This is where we are rising up. This is where we're speaking up. And this is where we are bossing up. And so for the month of June, we are bossing up in our financial health. Okay, this is Financial Wellness Month. And so I want to just poll the room. I want you to poll the room. And I want you to write on a scale from 1 to 10, how financially healthy are you? Okay, we can talk about cholesterol. We can talk about diabetes, your A1C. We can talk about your blood pressure. We can talk about that thing on the scale that we don't like to look at. But sometimes the money, we don't want to look at either. And so I'm bringing some heavy hitters onto this platform, but I want to do a self-assessment first. Okay, so from 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how financially healthy do you think you are? Come on, let's put in the chat. Let's put in the chat. And so while we get started, I'm going to invite my guest on this platform. But before I do, I want to read in your hearing just a little bit about her. And so again, this is about girl just want to have funds. This is about your financial health. This is about your bank account. This is about your budgeting. This is about your investments. This is about your money mindset. And I wanted to bring someone on who can help walk it down. And so I have the money makeover mogul in the house. Somebody put money making mogul. Okay, if you can't type all that, just put some M's in the chat. We're talking about some M's. It's talking about the money makeover mogul, but we're going to talk about some millions. Okay, can somebody put some dollar signs in the chat if you're with me? Put some dollar signs, because that's what we're talking about tonight. And so I wanted to introduce none other than Dr. Tabitha Russell. She's affectionately known as the money making mogul. Somebody put that in the chat for me. Okay, the money making mogul. And she is a highly sought after keynote speaker. She's a best-selling author, and she's a financial expert. She is arguably one of the most empowering, entertaining, and enthusiastic voices in transformational speaking today. She leverages over 20 years of professional experience in the financial literacy industry. And Dr. Tabitha, she is on a mission to train corporate and collegiate audiences to transform their relationship with their money so that they can unapologetically give themselves permission to experience the financial freedom, stability, independence, and security they deserve. So let's bring Dr. Tabitha to the stage. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on tonight, Dr. Marcea. I am so excited to be here because I have some good stuff to share on tonight. So thank you.
You are so welcome. So this is called Multiplying Your Millions with we can call it the money making or the money makeover mogul. And so I'm going to throw it to you. I want you to tell me what's your hashtag? What does that mean to you?
So the money makeover mogul has come from 20 plus years experience with helping people to take back their financial wealth authority, meaning that I have not come across a situation that we have not been able to work through, meaning you can bounce back from any situation. You can bounce back from foreclosure, repossession, all of that stuff, but you got to put in the work. And so for me, the money makeover mogul comes in that we're going to tear it all the way down and then build it back up, because I believe that you got to have a solid foundation, right? And then money making, once we build it back up, now we're going to transform it and diversify that portfolio a little bit.
All right. She said, tear it down, build a foundation, and
Mhm.
build it back up.
That's
Okay.
right.
So Dr. Tabitha, when you said tear it down, I got a little, I kind of pulled back a little bit. What do you say to these girl bosses? Because I'm this is Girl Boss Life. I am your Master Destiny Life Coach, and I am the CEO of Girl Boss Life Academy. But
Yes.
when I talk about the girl bosses, some people are going to say, I don't know about that. What do you say to those women?
Meaning that I really want to get to how you think about your money. What's your relationship with money? And so sometimes we go back to the grassroots. How did you learn about money? And we determine if that was good or if we're still in the learning process, and if there's some things that we can tweak in order for us to have a healthy relationship with money. Me, when I started out with this, it was a lot about mindset. And I realized that all of us, we want to go out there and we want to get the money. But I find out that sometimes once we get the money, because we're girl bosses, right? Like some of us are driving in the lane, we're doing it, but we don't keep the money all the time. And so that's where we determine whether or not the habits we have are healthy or not.
Okay. So I'm hearing, thank you for that. You're saying healthy habits. And it's kind of like I'm feeling like exercise, right? Eating right, going to the doctor or checking in with your accountant, keeping a log, having a budget. All of those things are healthy money habits that sometimes we don't adopt. And you talked about mindset. And I want to go a little bit deeper, but before we do that, I want you to tell me, you said you have 20 years in financial literacy. Can you walk us down where you've gained this knowledge in those 20 years?
Okay. So, for starters, when I graduated high school and I set out on my journey, I went to school and I got a minor in accounting. However, that was not really where I learned my financial literacy. Like I learned some things there. I can keep your books. I can get your books right. Now, when it came to practical application, I really learned it through my life experiences, meaning that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I started off being an entrepreneur early on in life in my 20s. However, through that, I've learned a lot of things about how to get it wrong. And through
Mhm.
getting it wrong, meaning that I learned that having a budget was super important. I learned that making sure that you know what's in your bank account and what's going out of your bank account is key. And so a lot of times people don't like the B words like budget, like balance, like behavioral habits, right? So with that, I learned personally just through some of my mistakes how to get it right. And so for me, it became a passion on teaching people how to avoid some of those things. So that way they don't have to make the mistakes that myself and others have made. You can learn from my mistakes and potentially progress forward a lot quicker than I did. And so a lot of my experience came on the fly in some cases now, but also really positioning myself and investing in myself to sit under the tutelage of some other people as well. And some people that had $100,000 insight, some people had $1 million insight. And now I'm on the search for finding somebody that has a multi-million-dollar insight on how all of this looks and the structure behind that. So I've been a lifelong learner around financial literacy and really through my experience.
Got you. So you're saying you had some on the job training
Very
in
much so.
this money making mogul world. And so I want to go to the chat again because I asked a question and I'm not sure if I if we got the answers, I want to know where you are from 1 to 10 in your financial health. Okay, in your financial wellness, with 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. I want you to go ahead and put that in the chat, because I want us to start somewhere. Whenever we're doing an assessment, let's figure out where we are now, and then we can come back around later and see what change has occurred. So I want to go back to the healthy habits. Okay, so we're talking about multiplying our millions. So the first question I have is, first of all, where do we find the millions? Where's all the money right now? So how do we find those millions, Dr. Tabitha?
So one of the things that I teach in the Breakthrough Millionaire Academy, that I am currently the founder and CEO of, is that we take whatever you're innately good at, what are you passionate about, and we figure out how we can diversify those talents, meaning that you can get to millions really by doing anything today. But it comes down to having a structure around, like, building that solid foundation and then diversifying off of that thing. So for example, let's say that we have someone and they're a baker, for example. With that person being a baker, I myself, that is not my strong suit. So I personally will be in line to buy the cakes and the cupcakes, right? Mm-hmm. Not only that, I love to cook, but because I don't like to bake, I may even pay you to show me how to now make the cakes and the cupcakes. So we've just created a second stream of income. Now, let's take it a step further, right? Because not everybody potentially has the resources to be able to pull you into their space to say, teach me how to bake these cakes and cupcakes, but you can put it in a book now, and you've just created a third stream of income. So when we talk about getting to the millions, we look at how you can diversify and potentially have multiple sources of income coming in, and you can duplicate your process. Now, when you get to this stage, now you hire others to duplicate what it is that you do. And so you create another stream of income. So there are ways creatively that we can get to the millions. Like, millions, I believe, is in all of us. And for some of us, depending upon where we're at in our income, we have had millions to come through our bank accounts at some point. So now what are we doing to keep those millions?
Yeah, so there's millions inside of everybody. If in the chat, if you have millions inside of you, I want you to give me some dollar signs. I got some dollar signs. And I see Tammy. Hey, Tammy, she put in an 8.5 in her financial wellness. Now, I'm not sure what everybody else is doing. I think they went to their bank account and started counting up their money. But I want you to go ahead and put a stab. Go ahead and put your number from 1 to 10, because this is a conversation. We're giving power. And Rich Live, he talked about taking your power back. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're taking back our financial power. We have given it away. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm going to be transparent. Some days I don't want to look. Okay, I don't want to see. But when I do that, I'm giving my power away. Mm-hmm. Because first, knowledge and awareness is usually the first step in any program. Whether we're talking AA, we're talking about financial awareness, we're talking about trying to get healthy physically, is being aware of where you are. So, Dr. Tabitha, I want you to pick that ball up. I threw it at you. When you start working with people in your Breakthrough Millionaire program, I like how that says. Can you say that? Breakthrough Millionaire.
Breakthrough Millionaires Academy.
Yes, Breakthrough Millionaires. We all need to break through. So can you walk us down? Just kind of give us a little sneak peek of what the program is all about.
Yeah, so I like when you said awareness before we can take action. So with awareness, we need to know exactly where our funds are going. And I told you that people don't like the B word. They don't like budgeting. they don't like sometimes getting back to the basics because a budget is basic, right? Like everybody is teaching how to have a budget in their financial course. However, I like to take on the challenge of helping people to get to a zero balance budget, meaning that if you have a steady stream of income and that income's, let's say it comes in from a job every 2 weeks, with that budget, you want to definitely make sure that you account for everything that's coming in and then you account for everything that's going out. A lot of times I find that people miss the little things, Starbucks and stopping at the gas station and getting we're good sometimes with getting our hair and our nails done, but sometimes adding in that pedicure or going to have a spa day or having lunch with the girls and different things like that. Some of those things we don't account for. And this is where I say that the budget can very easily be busted. And this is how. So, say, for example, I had a client and he was a very eager young individual. And he would say, "Oh my goodness, I got my check and I saved $500. Kudos to you. And that is very exciting." However, I found that this gentleman would go back in that $500 after or before he would get his next check. So after he put it away, now he would go back and get $50 for some gas. He'll get $20 for, lunch, or he stopped by the store and he'll get another little $40 or whatever. By the time he got paid again and we reassessed his budget, he has now spent $250 out of that $500 that he saved. Now, I would say that, did you realistically set up that budget? No, he didn't. His budget right then was broke because I was saying, okay, we want to get that balance down to zero. Well, he already was off to a somewhat of a little bit of a bad start, because you should not put away money and immediately have to go to it and it's not an emergency or it's not for the intended purpose that you put that money aside. So it was very interesting to see the progression over the course of time when I started teaching him the steps to make sure that his zero balance budget was properly calculated. So the awareness is everything throughout this process. What will work for you, what does not work for you. And if it does not work for you, find out why and probe until you get an answer that is suitable. And it's okay to scratch it and start it all over again. That's the good part about the action part of all of this.
Yeah. So I'm being transparent. Okay. So we're talking about, and I just going to the chat. I heard Nikki says she's a 7.
Okay.
Out of 10. And she put in some dollar signs, meaning that there's a millionaire inside of her. And I
Yes.
say, hey to Dr. Tanya T. Wise in the house. Hey, Ronnie. And so I wanted to, where was I going with that? Oh, I'm being transparent. Okay. So we're talking about the whole budgeting thing and the zero balance budget. I understand. Okay. I have found, and I'm saying personally, that doing that is a little, after the first month, it gets a little onerous. It gets a little tough. It gets a little interesting. How do you how do you coach? How would you coach me on that?
Okay. Well, for starters, I would say that thank you, first of all, for being honest with me and letting me know that there's potentially a little bit of a challenge either here now or coming down the road, meaning that, I sometimes am over that, right? But this is where we establish accountability. That's the other part to all of this. We have the awareness, we have the actions, and we have accountability. So having somebody to hold you accountable to what you say that you want to do, first of all, and then secondly, to the agreement that we both set together. And as we do that, now we're able to reassess why potentially it gets a little old or it gets a little stale. So a budget, though, is a target, and that target should constantly be moving so that way it's potentially fluid. So I will just say a girl boss life is not set it and forget it, first of all, because there's growth in there. There's sometimes things that come up. And I believe that you should reward yourself somewhere throughout this process. So that way it gives you a fuel for the fire so you can keep going. So when that is the case, I will say, all right, let's reassess the budget, and we should do so regularly as things change, as the dynamics continue to grow in your life. Then we continue to reassess it. But a budget is not something that you just set and say, oh, we're just going to stick to it. No, it should be moving constantly as you continue to grow.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's a living thing. It's a living organism that can kind of change and ebb and flow. And I also heard that I should have a budget buddy. I should have some type of accountability so that when it's kind of like if I'm going to the gym, to have somebody at the gym to meet me there and to kind of push me when I start to fall off.
Yes.
And it sounds like that has been maybe something that I have been missing. So I want to go to the chat and just to kind of see where I hear action. I see some more dollar signs. Oh, I want to know if you have a budget. If you budget currently, I want you to put a B in the chat. Okay, B in the chat. I have someone else. Melissa Holly, how are you? She says she's a 7 out of 10, and she got some dollar signs in the chat as well. So if you do a budget right now, go ahead and put a B in the chat. So we're talking about breakthrough millionaires. For those that are just joining, I have my special guest, Dr. Tabitha Russell. She is a expert in financial literacy. We're talking about her Breakthrough Millionaire Academy. And so after you have had now you set the budget, it's now fluid. We have some awareness. We have some accountability. What else do you think is important in order to get to a place of financial health?
So I believe that you should also set a vision plan. And for a lot of us, we may have ideas on how we want life to go for us or how we want to accomplish things. But most of the time, it's only here. And so I believe that when it's only here, it's just a thought. And so once you now write it down and you commit it to paper, I love the Bible as well. So I teach a lot of biblical principles, but I believe that Habakkuk 2:2 tells us to write the vision down. And so now you take it from your thought in your mind, your idea, and then you write it down. So you commit it to paper, and now you post it somewhere that everybody in the house and or either yourself is constantly reminded of that thing that you're wanting to try to accomplish. Because too many times we have thoughts and ideas and we're trying to get it all done ourselves, where there's others around us that may or may not understand the process that we're going through. Meaning that, it's like when we start budgeting, for example, and we pull the reins back a little bit, and you have, we'll say, the children there, and they're used to, balling out. They're going to get the new shoes that's coming out, and they want to go out to dinner and catch the movies with their friends. But when you pull the reins back, you didn't communicate that. And when you didn't communicate that, now there's some sort of conflict that's going on, as well as everybody else is in an uproar and they're feeling some kind of way. And now that could potentially throw our mindset off. So we talk about these things on how we can keep a healthy relationship, not just with our money, but also in the family dynamics, and how we can keep a healthy mindset going through this process. So all of that is in the academy. Like, we keep it real and raw as far as money is concerned, because for a lot of us, we were not taught money. Like, money was not a household conversation in my home when I was growing up. Now, when I think about my mother, she's excellent with money. When I say excellent, I mean, oh my goodness. But I did not realize that until I was a grown adult out and on my own did I realize what all she was doing. I could see it, but I wasn't in on the integral parts of it to where I could understand it and put the pieces together. And so now that I see it, and I'm, paying bills and creating businesses and doing all these things, it's just like, oh my goodness, it was there all along,
Oh,
but not really, because we weren't having the conversations. And this
conversation
is where
about
we have to have open dialogue on what's happening.
Yeah. So as you say that example, the thing that I'm reminded of, and I see Deborah Ann Jones in the chat. How are you? So the analogy that I'm going to say is, say your grandmother or say your mother had this recipe and she made these biscuits. They were nice and flaky and everybody loved them. She always made them, but she never taught you how to do it. You may even have seen a recipe. She may have said, oh yeah, put some flour, put some sugar, put a little bit of yeast, put a little bit of this. But when you try to do it yourself, it just doesn't come out right because she didn't teach you. And so I want to segue into money trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you talked about what we were taught at home,
Mm-hmm.
what we've been through. I'm going to throw out to you, I'm going to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want you to kind of walk us through that in terms of our money mindset and money trauma.
Okay, so a lot of times we feel like the good part to all of this is that we can handle it ourselves, that we know what we need to do, how we need to do it, when we need to do it. And a lot of times that is true. However, the bad part of it is that do we really do it, and do we do it well? And when we get into a place, do we have somebody else now that we can go to get potentially additional answers, or a strategy that could potentially help us to get out of the place where we thought we were on track to be and we weren't? How do we fix that? How do we correct it? So the ugly part sometimes comes down to is that, oh, I don't want them to know that I have a money challenge. Oh, I don't want them to know that I'm over here struggling or anything like that. So I would say sometimes as a culture, we've got to normalize the good, bad, and ugly when it comes to money, meaning that, baby, I don't know everything. And I'll be quick to admit I don't know everything. However, I have surrounded myself around those that I could potentially call on and get an answer. I also have a community, a tribe where I can be transparent and they not judge me, but they help me in such a way that it helps me now to be better. And so through that process, it helps us now to be fortified and strengthened in such a way that our mindset says that it's okay sometimes if you fall or if you falter, meaning because you've made a mistake, right? Or you didn't calculate something right or whatsoever. And so, because sometimes we don't know everything, we've got to constantly be investing in ourselves to learn more and to fortify ourselves on where, if something happens, we now or don't have all of our eggs in one basket, first of all. And secondly, that we have resources that we could potentially pull from. And we need to normalize that. We, as a culture, are not like that.
Mm-hmm. And so we don't have all our eggs in the same basket because we have diversified. We have
Yes.
multiple streams of income, as
Yes.
Dr. Tabitha has already taught us. So I love this. So I want to go to the chat. Sharon, she asked a question and she says, when do you reward yourself in this whole
Ooh,
budgeting thing?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Every step along the way. So I
Yeah.
use this as an analogy. I say that if you set out to lose weight, for example, and your goal is to lose 50 pounds. And let's say the first month you lose 7 to 10 pounds. Are you going to wait to reward yourself? Or are you going to reward yourself in such a way that it says, oh, I'm ready to go for the next 10 or the next 5 to 7 pounds, right? So when you're on your financial journey, I tell people this: when you get your paycheck, whether that is every 2 weeks or whether it is monthly, you should set aside something that says, I earned this for the hard work that I put in. Can you only imagine? And this is where I see a lot of people's budgets go busted. They have a big goal that they set for themselves, and they look at the money that they have and they say, wow, I only have enough money to take care of X, Y, Z, and the rest of it I need to put away so that I can get to this goal. But they never take anything out for themselves. So they're easily tempted to buy the dress, buy the shoes, and break the budget, as opposed to adding it into the budget. So whatever your favorite thing is, and if you can only afford 25 $25, $50, $100, whatever it is, you should set aside that amount in the budget to reward yourself. And as you do that every step along the way, it now makes it like, okay, I'm getting something out of what I'm doing every single day, even though sometimes I may do some things I may not want to do, but the bigger picture is I'm still going to achieve my big goal, but my small goals along the way is going to help me to get to the big goal and keep me motivated. So that's what I mean by you should reward yourself.
I love that. And so we're talking about the name of this was multiplying your millions. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about mathematical properties. Mm-hmm. And so I love what you said. Instead of breaking the budget, add to the budget. So let's use a different mathematical property so mm-hmm. that the budget or the B part that we're afraid of, mm-hmm. and in my head I'm hearing boundaries as well. It's a boundary, right? But we are now in this fluid space with it. Add that to the budget so that you now don't feel deprived.
That's right.
Okay. Same way if you're cutting calories. Once you start depriving yourself of the things that you want, now that craving rears its ugly head, and now you cheat. And I want you to talk to us about, now that we're cheating, what that does in the mindset. How do you attack that?
So for most people, we're our own worst critic. So we're always really hard on ourselves when we start getting outside of the perimeters of what we've drawn for ourselves, or maybe our coach has set for us. So it's very easy to go to a dark place and say, oh my gosh, I messed up, like it's the end of the world. However, when that is the case, having an accountability partner there, or somebody you feel like you can trust and confide in, and talking through that process with them helps you now to keep your boundaries healthy. You know what? Today was not a good day. Man, I messed up. I overspent. Whatever. That is not the end of the world. One instance is not necessarily the end of the world. However, you have got to get back to the plan, whatever the plan is that's set. And the reason why I say that your budget, for example, needs to be fluid is that now you put in some safeguards to potentially help you from going back to that place or going outside of your boundaries. So if that means that you need to redo that budget and reassess where you are, then that way you account for those triggers. You figure out what your triggers are, and then now you set up a plan of action to attack that. And having that accountability space helps you with being able to now address those on an ongoing basis, real time though, real time.
Okay, got it. So Daryl in the chat is saying, loving this money topic. And I also saw Nikki. Nikki says that she needs some accountability with this budgeting, with this process. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, Dr. Tabitha, what does that look like in your program, and how is this different than what can be done? You know, I'm familiar with the Dave Ramsey program, and they have a zero budget, whatever it's called, that right? and so how do we do this in a better way in your program?
So I too am familiar with that program, whatever they do over that side. However, I believe that because some of us can identify the challenges that some people are experiencing. For example, I'll use me. At one point in my life, I lost everything. When I say everything, I know what repossession is like. I know what foreclosure is like. I know what it is like to come back from bad credit, all of that stuff, and still have small babies and all of that to contend with. And so, having somebody that can identify with what that feels like, we call it the struggle. And I will say, if when you can identify real time what that person is going through, those emotions that they're feeling, the habits that they may be trying to experience, the robbing Peter to pay Paul and things like that. I found that in some of those programs, people cannot identify wholeheartedly what that is like. And so for the Breakthrough Millionaires Academy, we seemingly have like-minded individuals in there that can help not just with the practical side of this. The practical side of this is nothing. We can talk about budgets. You can go to a book and you can find a budget and different things like that. But what about the emotional side? The emotional side definitely needs to be addressed. That mindset that you have to have when the challenges come, how that looks, and the accountability, meaning that we've created a group, a tribe of like-minded individuals that are all potentially at the same place or trying to get to the same place. And so we're able to now encourage one another and potentially share some gems in there that helps them to accelerate their process. So when we talk about accountability, there's a no tolerance policy that we're not going to put anybody down. If it's not empowering, inspiring, or encouraging, then it's probably better left unsaid, right? Because that's just an opinion. And opinions, everybody got one, but not necessarily that it should be shared. So we create a loving and wealth mindset environment that is all about the millions and the money.
I love it. So I'm going to ask those that are in the chat, go ahead and put your questions for Dr. Tabitha in the chat. We're going to go ahead and answer all the questions that you have. But I have a question for Dr. Tabitha. You mentioned in your bio about the intersection between faith, fortune, and fulfillment. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So I had the pleasure of writing a book. It is called Go F Yourself. That's right. It is. Go F Yourself. But more importantly, it is faith, fortune, and fulfillment. And this book, I always say that when it comes to our finances, we really have to get good about doing math. And how I break it down is this: our faith is the addition part of it. When we add God into our lives, that means that we are opening ourselves up to endless possibilities. And then from there, we're going to, because we can, once we add God to our lives, right? He's going to subtract from us those things that's not like him. And so we've just learned addition and subtraction. We call that generally a budget. However, on getting to the fortune, now we're going to learn how to divide, meaning that we're going to diversify every part of our lives, meaning that there's time that we're going to spend and there's some times that we're going to save. Either way, you can diversify on either end of that. And then the fulfillment comes in when we learn how to multiply, meaning that we learn how to be good in all things. And so go F yourself is finding faith, fortune, and fulfillment, learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, meaning that we are learning how now to be great in our own skin, in our own place that we are. And so whatever area of finances I tell people that they are right now, don't compare yourself to anybody else. You've got to be authentically you. And we address that. We don't just talk about faith, fortune, and fulfillment, but we also talk about some other areas in here. We talk about the awareness, the importance of strong values. And there is nothing more important than keeping an eye on the prize, meaning that looking at the vision. We talk about fear and overcoming that. There's so many things that we talk about in the book that helps people now to be relational and really figure out where you are and be okay with being where you are and knowing that it's going to get better, or you're going to potentially be able to excel and do exceeding abundantly above anything that you can ask or think, meaning exceed or excel past the place that you set out to be your mark to begin with. So
yeah, that's good. So let's go back to the mathematical principles. And you
yes.
said there's some addition, you have to add faith. There's some subtraction, the stuff you don't need. You talked about the division, diversify, and
Mhm.
then the multiplying, and that's how you get to the fulfillment. And I'm thinking about just a math problem. And you know how there's some things, if you have all of the numbers, all the properties, you have addition, you have subtraction, you have some division and multiplication. There is an order in which you have to do the math problem so that you can get the right answer.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes we're spending when we should be saving. Sometimes we're saving when we should start spending, right? And we're talking about investing in ourselves or investing in that process, that program, that coaching, whatever that is that we need in order to get to the next level. But there's a process to get there. So we're talking about budgeting, we're talking about accountability. What else would you add as far as the process?
So when I think about the process, I tell everybody that you are the best version of you right now by yourself without any help. And I will say, the one question that I have to that is that, are you okay with who you are right now? Are you okay with the place that you are in your financial situation? And if the answer is no, then the process then becomes, how can you better your situation? And if you've done all that you can do by yourself, now this is the opportunity for you to potentially seek some help. And sometimes that does require that you potentially invest in yourself. Investing in yourself is one of the healthiest things that we can do, meaning that you get somebody to help you navigate the process in such a way that now potentially it helps you to make sense of all of this stuff. Because if I'm the best version of me right now, man, please take my money and help me, because I've done everything that I know to do. And that's where we've got to get comfortable with doing that. Like, a lot of us are very rich with knowledge, but do we practically apply the knowledge that we have? And if that question is no, then now you got to get somewhere and get some accountability that's going to help you to align with where it is that you're trying to go. If not, the potential that you could fall back in that place or worse is very real, because you're trying to figure it out. And because we don't know everything by ourselves, now surround yourself with some people that know a few things. A little bit of wisdom and knowledge goes a long way.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to the chat. Nikki, she has a question about saving. And actually, it's two questions. One is, what percentage should we save? And is there a minimum amount that we should be saving?
So there's a rule of thumb that says 50% should go to your household expenses, which is, the house, the car, the incidentals for the house, like groceries, things like that. 30% should go to you having usable cash for whatever that is. Meaning that if you have some credit cards and different things like that, you should use that towards that. And then there's the 20%. I always say that 10% goes to tithes. That's first and foremost. Like, you pay it, set it, forget it, don't think about it. Now, that part of it, you can say, yup, you can set it and forget it, because that will not, well, it could change when you make more money. However, and then the other 10% is savings. That's a good place to start. Now, if you find that some people pay off their cars, some people pay off their homes and different things like that, now you can afford to diversify a little bit further. If you're okay with leaving your savings at 10%, the extra money that you generate now, you go and you put it somewhere, meaning that you could potentially invest it. You could start to build your business. You could do so many other things. Now you have your money making money for you, and you are also having it where you have diversification in your portfolio. So once you get to the place of where you have, let's say, 6 to 8 months of emergency fund set, the rest of the money, now you start to allocate it different places where it's making money for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
So with the
10% is a
check
good rule of thumb.
and the what?
10% is a good rule of
10%,
thumb.
10%. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, Nikki, did you hear that? 10%. So there's another question in the chat, and I'm going to say the word, I'm going to set it up. Okay. I'm going to say the word debt.
Mhm.
Okay. How do you deal with that? And what do you say to someone who feels that weight, that pressure of all the debt that they have? And so it's hard to you're trying to pull yourself out of a hole, but then you start talking about saving.
Mhm. So when it comes to debt, a lot of times we have to get to the root cause of why we have all the debt. First of all, is it because we have a spending problem? Is it out of necessity? Is it out of sometimes us trying to, be a boss, right? We're talking to girl bosses or bosses in general. However, was it from investing, different things like that? So when you can determine how you arrived at the debt, and say, for example, it is not out of necessity, now sometimes you have to change the habits that created the debt, meaning that there's different kinds of debt. There's good debt, which is the necessities, because we have to have food, clothes, and shelter. But then there's unnecessary things where once you get the clothes, for example, do we have to have 25, 30, 50 dresses or 25, 100 pairs of shoes?
Yes, we do.
So,
So
well, I like to think so as well, but it's in my budget. So I say it's a necessity.
continue. That's my little peanut gallery. Go ahead.
Yes, look, me too. And so when it comes to the debt, though, when you determine how and why, now you can put together a plan to pay it off. And I will say that, let's say you cannot afford to save 10% to start with, but you can afford to save 5%, or you can afford to save $25. Let me tell you, $25 adds up really fast, and that's like $300 at the end of the year. And so I will say that's 300 more than you had. And so it won't be the same always. And as you pay off the debt, now you can increase your savings to where you can get it to 10% or above. So let your situation be your situation for now, but put together a plan where you're going to come out of that. And that won't always be your story.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So Daryl was the one who asked the question, and I think we covered it. I'm just gonna read it the way she wrote it, and we
Okay.
go. Can you tell us the pitfalls with having a savings account versus paying off your debt while maintaining an emergency fund while working on the budget?
Oh, that's all of it. That encompasses how we should have all of this structured. I even say that we should take it a little bit further. When we talked earlier about rewarding ourselves through this
Mhm.
process.
Mhm.
So with having your normal expenses, I call them the healthy expenses, the house, car, that kind of stuff. But then you have the emergency fund, you have the savings fund. I say you should include a vacation fund, right? Like, why not go somewhere, even if it is potentially saving up and you buy a tent and you staycation in the backyard? Whatever it is, I mean, your situation has to be your situation, but you stretch it a little bit further. Now, I will say that sometimes it could be a little overwhelming when we are trying to do all of these things because we weren't taught this. And anything new sometimes come with a little bit of challenges, meaning that because it's new to us, it automatically seems big and fearful and frightful. But I always say, give it time and start where it works for you. We want to jump out there and we want to say 50, 30, 20 or 50, 30, 10, 10 from the rip. And that might not be your story. So if your story is 60, 20, 20, then let that be your story. And you can always go back and reallocate whenever's necessary, but let the main thing be the main thing and start where you are and then launch out and to do something different.
Yeah, that's good, because the analogy that I also hear is when you start going to the gym. Okay, you've been a couch potato for the last 5 years. When you get to the gym, you have a pipe dream in your head that you're going to go in there, you're going to run a treadmill, and you're going to go do some lifting. You lifting 100 pounds, but that's not how it works, right? You get in there, you might only be able to walk for 5 minutes. You may only be able to work for 10 minutes. So let's use that same analogy for the money and the budgeting. If you have debt, if you're trying to have a savings account, you're trying to have an emergency fund, what I'm hearing Dr. Tabitha say is start small. Start with that 5-pound weight. If it's only $5, put that $5 aside. It may be that Starbucks run that you may have to do without. But $300 at the end of the year is better than zero savings. And let the time build up to now you can have more. You can go do the 50, 30, 10, 10, or there's some of the other strategies that she's implementing. Would you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. There's so many tools out there. We'll use the 52-week plan. There's a plan out there. You can look at it, look it up online. It's called the 52-week savings plan, where you literally start off with saving $1.
Really?
And then you go from saving $1 up to like $100 or something like that. By the end of the year, you have $1,352, if I'm not mistaken. There's another one you could do 500, 5,000. There's all kind of different formulations out there. But sometimes it's creating a habit of doing something that's going to get you to that place. Just like we were talking about the gym. If 5 minutes is all that you can do, then do those 5 minutes. Do it with joy, do it with a smile on your face, with a good attitude, and then go back the next day. And the next time that you go back, now you're like, okay, I can do this. Now I can go 6 minutes. And you feel good about being able to do that. So with your money, it's the same way. We've got to break the habits of why we weren't able to save the money to begin with. And sometimes it is a learned behavior, just like anything else. And so as you acquire these skills, learn some new tactics and habits, create some new habits, now it becomes a little bit easier. And so you're not used to taking that Starbucks money and going to run down there to go get a coffee. Now you're used to putting it in the coffee can and reward yourself with saying, oh, okay, I got this. Now I can increase it and do a little bit more. And so it does help you to learn some new things and to build some great habits.
Yeah. So I want to offer a challenge, okay, to the viewers. I want to do the 52-week challenge. Okay. So I want you to share more. I want whoever, if you're willing to start off with $1, is that $1 a week?
It breaks down the formula, but it starts off with the dollar per day, and
$1 per day. Okay.
then it will challenge you to increase that and different things like that. So we would basically, in order to do the 52-week challenge, we would basically probably only cut that in half. So maybe it's a 26-week challenge. But wherever it is in the year, since it's halfway through the year now, you pick up from there and you go to the end of the year. So with that being said, it's still attainable, but maybe instead of starting where they are in the plan, you just start from the beginning. So yeah, I agree that you can start with $1.
Okay.
And then you go from
So
there.
$1 a
Yeah.
day. And so we're creating habits. So we're changing. It's kind of like you're going to start, going to the gym. You're going to start meditating. You're going to start reading your scripture. You're going to start doing that. When you do them every day, it now becomes a habit after, depending on who you listen to. It can be a 90-day challenge. It can be, or 90-day time in order to create that habit. So I'm putting the habit out. I'm going to do for the rest of the year, I'm going to physically put aside that whatever dollar a day for the next, for the rest of the year. If you're in the chat and you're going to come with me, I want you to put challenge accepted. Okay. We can do it electronically as well, but I like to see the money. I like to put it in the thing, and I like to look at it after a while. So that's what we're going to do. So put challenge accepted. If you're going to decide that you're going to put away some money every day as we build this savings thing, and it gets you closer to your financial health. So what I wanted to do, Dr. Tabitha, is, and I don't know if there are any more questions in the chat, I wanted to invite folks to connect with you. If they need an accountability partner, is in their financial situation, if they're interested in coming and joining your academy, the Breakthrough Millionaire, or if they want you to come speak, they're trying to get a copy of your book. And I want to do, is it okay if we do a giveaway?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me how they can get a hold of you.
All right. So I have 2 books. As a matter of fact, I'll give away a copy of each of them. The first book is called I Divorced My Money and Married My Mindset.
Okay.
The second book is Go F Yourself, Finding Faith, Fortune, and Fulfillment. Now you can find those on Amazon under Dr. Tabitha Russell, but I would love to give away them. Also, if you're interested in the Breakthrough Millionaires Academy, I do offer a free assessment, meaning that we sit down, we carve out time, and we talk whether or not we can work together, meaning that invite you into the Breakthrough Millionaires Academy. That is free for us to be able to do that. And you can go to my website at drtabitharussell.com and you can schedule that free discovery session. The great thing about that is that it doesn't cost you anything. However, I will say, coming over and spending time with us, I do have a 12-week course where we get into the nuts and bolts of how to make all of this work. And if you're really serious about it, I challenge you for a whole year in my in my next level CEO program, where we now go from just dealing with your finances and we expand out into the business realm, and we do that for a year. So we have multiple ways that we can work together.
I love it. I see some challenge accepted in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. I love the MSE listeners, and we're going to get this thing going. Daryl says, I'm hoping in the future, Dr. Tabitha will come back on the show to see how we progressed with our budgets. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So this is what we're going to do. In order to get a copy of, so actually want to give away one of each book. And this is how you're going to get the book. Okay. Y'all ready? Okay. All right. So this is what you're going to do. Dr. Tabitha talked about the 50-30-10-10 rule. I want you in the chat to put in what the categories were for the 50, what's the category for the 30, and what's the category for the 10 and the 10. Okay. So go ahead and do that in the chat. Ronnie, who is my awesome moderator, she's going to tell me the top 2 people who have gotten it right. In the meantime, so if the show before this, Richard Adams, he is the CEO of MSE, and he was on the show. He did the show before this one. He was giving his Rich Live Nuggets, and he talked about power, talked about taking your power back. And I think I know a little bit of something that's coming in the future that has the word power in it. Can you tell me what's happening in August?
Yes, I am hosting the Powerful On Purpose Summit here in Columbia, South Carolina. It's going to be held August the 26th. I am bringing in speakers, powerhouses from around the country that's going to be empowering, inspiring, and dropping gems all day long. We are going to really do things differently, meaning that this is going to be let's sit down, come to the table, and let's now learn some things. So I'm excited about it. Dr. Marcea will be in the house. I am
Woo,
so
woo, woo.
excited. She will be one of my keynote speakers. So this is going to be such an exciting event, but Powerful on Purpose in Columbia, South Carolina. You can also find that on my website as well. And if you are interested in participating, you can also hit me up on all social media platforms at I am Dr. Tabitha.
Awesome. Powerful on purpose. Take back your power. Be intentional. Be unapologetic in your quest for what's next in your life, and even be a breakthrough millionaire. So I'm still waiting in the chat. I'm waiting for the categories for the 50, 30, 10, 10. Okay. So one of the things, I want to ask you, okay, when you hear the words up, sis, up, what does that mean to you from a financial literacy wellness perspective?
That means get up from where you are and do something about your situation. Meaning that if you don't like where you are, and some people do, but if you find yourself challenged in that area, you can do something about it. The same way we can change our physical appearance if we don't like it, we can do the same thing with our finances, and we can do it with excellence. And so Up Sis Up says that you can get up from here and you can go forward. So I love it. I love it. And the sky is the limit when I hear Up Sis Up. Like, who's stopping you? What's stopping you? Nothing at this point, but will and determination.
I'm hearing ain't no stopping us now, right?
Yes, I love
Because
it.
we're going up. We are going up. We are going
That's
up.
right.
All right, all right. I think we got one person. We got one response in the
Okay.
chat that looks like it could be right. We need one more person. Come on, come on, come
Okay.
on, come on, come on. All right, let's clap it up for them. Y'all can do this. Come on. Come on,
Yes, let's
come on.
go.
Let's go. Let's go. All right, up, sis, up. All right.
Yes, I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
And Ronnie, she said, I divorced my money and I married my mindset.
Yes. Yes.
Your voice. Now
Yes.
tell me, as we're waiting for that second person to come in,
Mm-hmm.
for that title, I divorced my money and married my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story
Mm-hmm.
behind that. It has to be. Okay. So I want you to share with us just a little snippet of how did you come up with that title?
So I've been a entrepreneur for many years. And for a long time, I was out here chasing the money, meaning that if I had a bad day, I had a bad day all around. Meaning that if I didn't make my goal for that day in money, that it was a bad day as far as I was concerned. And I realized that as long as I was chasing the money, that I was not really walking in my true purpose. And so as I started to get more clear on what my purpose was, which is to serve people, and all of my businesses is a service based industry, based businesses. And so with that, I learned that my mindset had to change, that it was not about the money, meaning that money becomes a byproduct of the services that I give. And if I give excellent service, if I give quality service, now I can expect to reap a harvest, but I can't reap a harvest if I show up halfway. And so I learned that I had to get me together and make sure that I'm doing the right things in the way of serving others. And so I had to get my mindset shifted and changed in some ways. And as I started serving people to the fullest, going above and beyond whenever I can, now the money comes effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I divorced my money and married my mindset came from. It's just
Got it.
really shifting my mindset about not just chasing the dollars, because a lot of times you get a little desperate and you can trip and fall by doing that because you take uncalculated risk. And so with that, my mindset around that shifted as well.
Got it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And so we have one winner, but there's two books. Okay. So
Yes.
I need somebody in the chat to copy the answer. You can cheat. Okay. I'm giving you permission to cheat. Okay. Copy the answer. Whoever copies Dr. Tanya's answer into the chat, you're going to get the other book, because we're here to serve. We're here to be a blessing. And I want to get that second book in somebody's hand. Okay.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's go. And so in a second, once I get this answer, we're going to sign out. And then DJ Rich, he's going to take us, he's going to throw in some music, and we're going to party our way out of here, because we have
Yes.
taken our power back from a financial perspective. We are going in the gym. We're lifting some weights. We're going to be on a treadmill, right? We're going to be fluid. We're going to allow the budget to change. We're going to get accountability. We're going to have awareness. And by doing so, we are going to be better from a financial perspective. We're going to be financially literate. And that's how we're going to add some stuff. We're going to subtract some stuff. We're going to multiply some stuff. And we're going to divide some stuff as we multiply our way to our million. So I'm waiting. Come on, chat. I am waiting for that second person. So Dr. Tanya, you got a book. I got a book for you. We're just trying to find that other person. All right. Because in a second, I'm about to give it. You know what? So we had a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to give one of the books to Nikki.
Awesome.
Okay. So in order to get your book, you need to register with the MSC network. So Ronnie, if you could put the link in. If you are new to the station, first of all, welcome to the show. Welcome to Tuesday nights. It's a power pack with Rich Live at 7 with and Ups is Up at 8 o'clock. Go ahead. Tiffany comes in. She comes in too. So you know what? Is it okay if we give another book away?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Let's give. Okay. So we're going to give it to Tiffany. Tiffany is going to get a second book. Let's give it. I like the F one. Okay, that one has a little ring. It's got a little ring to it. Let's give it. Let's give it to Tiffany. Okay.
All right.
And as we get out of here, I want to, Dr. Tabitha, can you give us some closing thoughts on maybe there's I'm gonna call it a Dr. Tabitha ism, that something that you live by, that you want us to take away as the last word.
I will say that whatever plan that you have, whatever idea and vision that you have for your life, that you say that I am going to accomplish this no matter what. My simple thought around that is keep going. Only you can limit you. Only you can stop the course of that taking place. So I will say, keep your eye on creating a rich legacy. That does not always mean money, but if you create a rich mindset, if you create healthy conversations, you create openness to discuss whatever it is, then you can create the life that you want. So don't limit yourself and keep going.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tabitha, for being here. We're definitely going to have you come back. There was a suggestion that you come and check us out and see how we're doing with our budgets. I look forward to seeing you next time. And I also look forward to seeing you in August at your Powerful on Purpose Summit. Take care.
Yes, thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Take care. Thank you so much. And so this is Dr. Marcea. This has been the Up Sis Up show here on the MSE Network, where we are rising up. This is where we are speaking up and we are bossing up, both in our finances, in our life, in leadership, in all of the areas. So meet us back here every week. In June, we're talking about financial success, financial wellness. But come back every week here on the Up Sis Up Network. I am Dr. Marcea, and I'm your Master Destiny Life Coach. And I help women who are trapped in their personal prison. I help them to break out. I help them to decide who they are, discover what they want, and then to deliver on their destiny. So DJ Rich, take us out. And see you next week. Take care.